The distress signal had been repeating for 34 Varelian days, drifting through the star lanes like a quiet cry in an empty night. It was simple, polite, and painfully desperate. It asked only for help, nothing more. Yet, across the Orion spur, almost no one answered. From the tall crystal towers of Virel Prime, the Central Council watched each passing hour with growing fear. Their beautiful silver forests and soft blue oceans were turning silent. Entire border colonies had gone dark. The Shrask swarm, a biomechanical hive species, moved like a slow storm, silent, disciplined, and unstoppable. They did not speak. They did not demand. They simply arrived, consumed resources, and moved on. The Virelians were a peaceful species. They valued calm thought, gentle diplomacy, and elegant problem-solving. Their bodies were slim and translucent, easy to injury and slow to heal. They had built libraries instead of armies, gardens instead of fortresses. Battles were memories from long ago, stories they believed would never return. But the Shrask did not care for old stories. In the Grand Assembly Hall, Elder Sael stood before a floating display of fading star systems. His voice trembled, though he tried to keep it steady. "We have reached out to every major alliance," he said softly. "If someone answers, they must answer soon." The hall was quiet, not out of peace, but out of dread. Ambassador Liren stepped forward. Her eyes shimmered with the pale lavender glow of Varelian emotion. "We must continue trying. Someone will help us. Someone must." The others nodded, though none truly believed it. The silence of the galaxy. The first reply arrived from the Clari Ascendancy, wealthy, proud, and always focused on their own trade routes. "Unavailable. Conflict not in our jurisdiction." The message was short and cold, as if they were discussing simple market numbers rather than lives. Hours later came a reply from the Keithan Union. "We regret we cannot provide military support at this time. We wish you safety." It was polite, but empty. The Syrinx Concord, known for their secrecy, sent no direct message. Their automated response simply repeated, "Transmission received. No action possible." One by one, the great powers of the spur responded with excuses. Too busy. Too far. Too risky. Their analysts predicted defeat, and no one wanted to be part of a losing battle. To them, the Virelians were already gone. Back in the assembly hall, the elders listened as each message was translated. Their long hands curled together in silent fear. Elder Sael exhaled slowly. "Then, we must send the next transmission. Even if the star map says the world is unaligned." Ambassador Liren hesitated. "Sol 3. Earth." She looked puzzled. Barely a century into interstellar travel. Not part of any alliance. Their biology is unusual. Their world is listed as a high-hazard environment. A quiet ripple of unease passed through the room. Everyone had heard rumors, half-whispered stories about a planet that was too hot, too cold, too wild. About oceans that regularly tried to swallow land. About animals with teeth sharp enough to cut stone. About storms that could tear ships out of the sky. And about the species that evolved on such a place. Humans. The galaxy sometimes called them Deathworlders. A dramatic nickname, perhaps. But even the most logical scholars admitted humans were different. Tougher. Faster to adapt. Emotionally unpredictable. Capable of great kindness, but also great intensity. The Virelians had never contacted them. Not once. But today was not a normal day. Ambassador Liren pressed her hand against the message console. "I will send the last signal. The final broadcast." A clear, gentle voice carried through space. "This is the Virelian Confederacy. We request assistance. Our borders have fallen. We are losing more lives each day. Anyone who receives this, please help us." There was a long silence after the transmission. The kind of silence that wrapped around hearts and made them heavy. The elders waited. Minutes passed. Hours. The hall's lights dimmed as night fell across Virel Prime. Outside, the twin moons glowed over dark forests. The beauty of the world made the fear even sharper. Everything precious felt fragile. Ambassador Liren closed her eyes. Perhaps they did not hear us. But before she finished the sentence, the console chimed. A reply. The elders froze. Even the air felt still. Liren activated the message. A human voice, rougher, deeper, and strangely warm, echoed through the chamber. Virelian Confederacy. This is the Earth Expeditionary Response Network. We received your distress signal. We understand the threat. We are preparing to deploy. The room filled with a soft hum of disbelief. Another message followed immediately, spoken by what sounded like a commander. You are not alone. We will come. Hold on. That was all. Simple words, clear, direct. No hesitation. No request for negotiation or payment. No long political delay. For a moment, the elders could not speak. Then a ripple of emotions passed through them. Confusion, hope, and something like disbelief. Elder Sael touched the display as if unsure it was real. They answered. Immediately. Liren swallowed hard. Humans. They are coming here? For us? They said they are preparing to deploy, Sael murmured. They said, hold on. The words felt powerful in their simplicity. Humans often spoke in short statements. Not poetic, not diplomatic, but strong. Perhaps, the elders thought, strength was exactly what they needed. The world reacts. News of the human response spread across Viral Prime within minutes. In the Silver Forests, workers paused to listen to broadcasts. Families gathered around holoscreens. Children with shimmering eyes asked their parents what humans looked like. Most had never seen one outside of textbooks. In underground research centers, scholars rushed to study everything known about Earth. They watched videos of humans climbing mountains, swimming through stormy seas, and exploring harsh deserts. Many were shocked by the physical resilience humans showed. They seem fearless, whispered a young researcher. Or maybe their world leaves them no choice, another replied. The Virelians had always believed strength came from harmony, from balance. But humans were shaped by challenge. They grew by stepping into danger instead of avoiding it. Some found it inspiring. Others found it terrifying. But all of them agreed on one thing. Human help was better than no help. The galaxy watches quietly. While the Virelians found hope, other species across the spur reacted differently. On Clari Ascendancy trade stations, merchants exchanged nervous whispers. If humans were willing to help a losing cause, what else were they capable of? Their behavior did not match any political pattern. In the Syrinx Concord, quiet analysts updated secret files, noting the speed at which humans made decisions. Emotionally driven, high-risk problem solvers. One analyst wrote. Capable of unpredictable action, even the Kethan Union watched with interest. They admired bravery but avoided conflict. Still, they could not ignore how quickly Earth had moved. Within a single hour, the humans had deployed their expeditionary network, activated emergency protocols, and prepared a jump fleet. No one else in the galaxy acted that fast. No one else even tried. Preparing for arrival. Back on Virel Prime, the hours before human arrival felt strange, like the silent moments before a storm, filled with both fear and anticipation. Ambassador Liren stood at the edge of the landing valley, a wide field surrounded by tall crystal trees. The warm breeze rustled the leaves, creating a soft, melodic sound. She wondered what the humans would be like in person. Would they look harsh? Would they speak loudly? Would they understand Virelian customs? Would they respect the world they were coming to save? She knew humans were often described as passionate, sometimes too passionate. But in the Virelian heart, passion was not a flaw. It was something beautiful. Something powerful. Behind her, Elder Sael approached. Are you afraid? He asked gently. Liren thought for a moment. I am not sure, she said. I do not fear the humans. I think I fear what their arrival means. If they are coming, they believe the threat is real. Sael nodded. Yes, humans do not move lightly. She smiled a little. Then I am glad they are moving for us. The sound of distant engines suddenly filled the valley, soft at first. then growing louder, deeper, steadier. A brilliant light spread across the sky as a formation of human ships came into view, descending with precise motion. Clusters of silver-white hulls reflected the sunlight. They were not the largest ships in the galaxy, nor the most advanced, but there was something confident about the way they moved, steady, bold, unafraid. The first human transport touched down, sending a gentle wave of dust across the field. Liren held her breath. The doors opened, and Earth's Deathworlders stepped out. The Virelian sun dipped low behind the distant hills, casting long, soft shadows across the landscape. The cool breeze, carrying the scent of silver-leafed trees, brushed over Ambassador Liren's face. She stood at the edge of the valley, eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting. Behind her, the landing field was already crowded with Virelian officials, military personnel, and curious civilians. The air was thick with nervous energy. Most had never seen a human in person, and even those who had were unsure what to expect from the Deathworlders who had so suddenly answered their call for help. The first ships, sleek and rugged in design, cut through the atmosphere with ease. Their movement was almost unnatural in its precision, like they had done this 1,000 times before, like they knew the way better than anyone. The ships were smaller than the grand vessels of the Clary Ascendancy or the Keithan Union. But there was something different about them. Something undeniably confident. Liren's heart raced. She could see the humans now, descending from their ships, wearing armor that glinted with wear. It was not polished, not pristine, but there was an undeniable strength in the way they moved. As the first humans stepped down from the ship, Liren could not help but notice how different they seemed. Their bodies were solid, their movements efficient, their eyes sharp. No helmets, no faceless armor, just individuals, human beings, each one with a unique face, a unique presence. The first to speak was a tall woman, her skin weathered by the sun. Her hair was short, streaked with silver, and she wore a simple combat suit, faded at the edges, covered with small dents and scratches. "I'm Captain Ray Lawson of the Earth Expeditionary Response Network," she said, her voice steady and calm, with a hint of warmth. "You're the Virelians, right?" Liren blinked, surprised at the directness. Humans did not seem to waste words. "Yes," she replied, taking a careful step forward. "We are." Captain Lawson's eyes flickered with understanding. "Good. I can't say much about the mission right now, but I'm here to make sure you survive this. All of you." The bluntness of the statement took Liren aback, but there was something in the captain's voice that made her believe it. Something that felt real. Behind Lawson, several more humans emerged from the ships. They were all different sizes, different colors, different expressions, but they all shared one thing in common: a quiet, burning resolve. One man, shorter than most, with dark, unkempt hair, moved quickly to a nearby console. He didn't wait for formal introductions. He just got to work, his hands flying over the controls, scanning systems, checking data, and talking to his team. Liren watched in silence as the humans worked. No one was idle. No one was waiting for orders. Every single human seemed to have a role to play. They were moving with a sense of urgency, but not panic, each action deliberate, each moment planned. "Where's the best place to set up our command center?" Lawson asked, turning to Liren. Liren was still processing the sheer intensity of the situation, but she quickly pointed to a series of reinforced structures a few kilometers away. "There. The central hub is secure," Lawson nodded. "Good. We'll start there. It's going to be a long day, but we'll make it through." As she walked toward the command center, Liren turned to Elder Sael, who had been watching the humans from a distance. His expression was unreadable, but there was something else in his eyes, something she couldn't quite place. "They're different," she said softly, almost as if speaking to herself. "They are," Sael agreed, his voice low. "Different. And yet, I think, they might be exactly what we need. A world unprepared for the impossible." Inside the command center, the humans had already set up a complex web of equipment. There were communication arrays, tactical maps, and energy shields ready for deployment. Everything was being prepared, even though the Shrask were still far out in the system, gathering their forces. Captain Lawson walked between the tables, listening to her officers as they reported on their progress. Despite the overwhelming task ahead, she remained calm, focused. Yet somehow, are human. There was no arrogance, no posturing. She was simply doing what needed to be done. As Liren entered the center, Lawson waved her over. "Ambassador, we're almost ready to start coordinating our efforts. We'll need your people on the front lines, and we'll need full cooperation." Liren hesitated for a moment. "We're not a warfaring species. We do not—" "I know," Lawson interrupted, her voice gentle but firm. "But we need everyone. Every skill, every resource. The Shrask won't stop because you've been peaceful. They'll only stop when we make them stop." Liren stared at her for a long moment. The captain's words hit her hard, but she also knew they were true. There was no more time for hesitation. The Shrask were coming, and if they didn't act, everything they had worked for would be erased. "What do you need us to do?" Lawson nodded. "First, we need you to send out scouts. We need to learn everything we can about the Shrask. Then, we'll start organizing a joint defense." She paused. "This won't be easy. The Shrask are relentless. But I promise you, we're going to do everything we can to stop them." As Lawson turned back to her officers, Liren's eyes drifted to the humans around her. They moved as if they were made for this, like this chaos was something they understood. Something they had faced before. The Virelian way was one of diplomacy, of peaceful coexistence. Yet the humans didn't hesitate to act. They didn't spend time on debates or discussions. They simply responded to the threat, and it made the Virelians realize how unprepared they had been, how much time they had wasted. The first wave. The hours stretched long as the humans set to work. Virelian engineers, though initially unsure of the Earthlings' methods, quickly learned that their designs were not only functional, but incredibly effective. Humans had created adaptable, rapid response systems that used minimal resources to defend large swaths of territory. The Virelians could barely keep up with the speed at which the humans worked, but they did their best to assist where they could. Then, the first Shrask probes arrived, a swarm of small, insect-like craft, each one brimming with technology that the Virelians had never seen before. They didn't engage in any form of communication. They simply appeared, cloaked in darkness, descending onto the planet's surface like a cloud of doom. "Prepare to engage," Captain Lawson ordered, her voice calm but filled with command. "Everyone, take your positions." The humans moved with such practiced ease that it was almost impossible to believe they were strangers to this world. They had no time to get to know the terrain, no time to prepare their strategies in any traditional sense. They just did what they had to do. The first skirmish came quickly. Shrask drones fired on the human defensive lines, sending bolts of raw energy into the air. The humans responded instantly, their shields activating with a brilliant flash of blue light. They fired back with precision, each shot aimed not to kill, but to disable. Each move was calculated. Virelian soldiers, with their translucent skin, could barely hide their awe as the humans worked. They had never seen such a level of coordination. Such a willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. There was no hesitation, only action. For hours, the fighting continued. The Shrask probes were relentless, but the humans were unwavering. The Virelian forces, though unprepared, held their ground, bolstered by the human firepower and strategy. In the end, the Shrask were pushed back. The victory was small, but it was significant. The quiet confidence of humans. As the battle ended, Liren found herself standing next to Captain Lawson, watching as the humans began their next move. "You did it," Liren said softly. "You really did it." Lawson turned, her eyes tired but focused. "It's just the beginning," she said. "We've got a long way to go, but together, we can stop the Shrask. You'll see." Liren nodded, feeling something she had never felt before. Hope. It was a strange, unfamiliar feeling. But it was there, and it was growing. And for the first time in a long time, The Varelian people had something they hadn't known they needed. Someone they could rely on. Humans. The Deathworlders. And they had come to save them. The Varelian capital, once a place of tranquility, now stood on the edge of annihilation. Across the sky, dark shapes flickered on the horizon, the first signs of the Shrask swarm's full invasion. It had only been days since the humans arrived, but already the tide had turned. The Shrask, relentless and machine-like, were still pushing forward, but now they had to contend with something they hadn't expected. Humans. Varelian soldiers, previously hesitant and ill-prepared, were now fighting with newfound courage. They fought alongside humans, using their natural agility to dart between the metal barricades, while the humans held the line with their terrifyingly precise tactics. The collaboration was rough at times, but it was working. Ambassador Liren stood at the edge of the city, watching the action unfold. Her mind raced. Just a few days ago, they had been helpless. Now, the city was alive, with movement, hope, and fear. The human presence had changed everything, and yet, she knew this was only the beginning. The Shrask weren't done. They never were. Beside her, Elder Sael looked at the distant sky, where the Shrask ships were slowly descending like a dark storm cloud. They won't stop until they've taken everything, he said, his voice steady despite the grim outlook. Liren turned to him, a frown creasing her brow. We've done everything we can. The humans have given us the tools, the knowledge, the strength. But, she trailed off, her gaze shifting to the skies once more. Are we ready for this? Sael nodded, his expression thoughtful. Ready or not, the battle has come to us, and we have no choice but to fight. The call to defend. Captain Ray Lawson's voice echoed over the comms, crisp and clear. All units. This is it. We're going to hold the line at the broken gate. The Shrask are pushing hard, but this is the last stand. We can't afford to lose this position. The broken gate was a massive orbital defense station that once protected the Varelian capital from potential threats. Now, it was their best chance at stopping the Shrask from overrunning the planet entirely. The station was a symbol of Varelian ingenuity complex. Beautiful and fortified. It had been designed to be a shield, but it had never seen a battle like this. Liren had been to the broken gate before. She remembered its beauty, the intricate design of its energy shields, the sophisticated arrays of sensors that glowed softly in the dark. But now, those same systems would be used to stop an enemy unlike any the Varelians had ever faced. She turned to Sael. The station is our best hope. If we lose it. Her voice trailed off, the weight of the situation sinking in. We won't lose it, Sael said, his voice resolute. Not if the humans have anything to do with it. The human strategy. As Liren and Sael made their way to the command center at the broken gate, they passed through corridors bustling with activity. Humans and Varelians worked side by side, coordinating efforts with an efficiency that left Liren in awe. The humans had a way of cutting through the confusion, focusing only on what was necessary. There were no pointless discussions, no hesitation. Just clear, decisive action. Captain Lawson stood at the center of the command room, her face illuminated by the glow of multiple holo-displays. Ambassador Liren, Elder Sael. She greeted them, her voice steady. We've got a plan in place, but we need your people to execute it. The Shrask will arrive in the next few hours. This feast, we're intel forker. Liren nodded, her eyes scanning the plans laid out before her. What do you need from us? We're going to need to move quickly, Lawson replied. The broken gate's shields won't last long against the Shrask's heavy artillery. We've got to thin their numbers before they reach the station, or we won't have enough time to mount a proper defense. Sael stepped forward. And how do you propose we do that? Lawson smiled, but there was a steely edge to her gaze. We'll deploy human shock troops in rapid response units. We'll have your engineers reprogram our drones to act as decoys, draw the Shrask's fire, and buy us some time. Your people know the terrain. We'll need them to be the eyes and ears on the ground. Liren could see the plan forming. It wasn't pretty, but it was the best they had. We're ready. Just tell us where to go. The clash of titans. As the sun set on Virel Prime, the sky darkened with the shadow of Shrask ships descending toward the broken gate. They came in waves, massive warships covered in biomechanical plating, their engines glowing with a cold, almost alien light. The Shrask had a single goal: to overwhelm, to consume, to destroy. Nothing else mattered. Human and Virelian forces were already in position. The first line of defense was a series of automated railguns, positioned at key points around the broken gate. Humans manned the turrets, while Virelian drones acted as scouts, weaving between the various defense structures. Captain Lawson stood at the heart of the command station, watching as the first Shrask ships moved into range. "Hold steady," she muttered to herself, her fingers tapping on the holo controls. "We've trained for this. We can do this." Suddenly, the sky exploded with light as the Shrask opened fire. The sound of the artillery was deafening, like a thunderstorm that had come to destroy everything in its path. Explosions rocked the surface of Virel Prime, sending shockwaves through the air. The first railgun turret was taken out almost instantly, its metal frame disintegrating in a burst of fire. "Brace yourselves," Lawson shouted over the comms. "Return fire! Everyone, engage!" The humans responded immediately, their railguns unleashing a barrage of high-energy projectiles that tore through the Shrask ships. The Virelian drones darted through the smoke, avoiding the Shrask fire with a speed that left their enemies confused. The Virelians were not built for battle, but they had adapted quickly, learning from the humans' tactics. Liren watched as human marines moved forward, their armor gleaming under the firelight. Each marine was equipped with advanced energy weapons, cutting through the Shrask lines with ruthless efficiency. Virelian soldiers, though nervous at first, followed their lead. They fired their plasma rifles with precision, working together with the humans to create a nearly impenetrable line of defense. But even with all their combined strength, the Shrask were not so easily stopped. They pushed forward relentlessly, their numbers overwhelming. "We can't hold them forever," Sael said, his voice tight with fear. "The shields are weakening." Liren didn't respond. She was focused on the battle, on the sight of humans and Virelians fighting side by side. She had never imagined she would see something like this. There was no time for fear now. There was only the battle, the turning point. The battle stretched into the night, the darkness punctuated by the bright flashes of energy weapons and explosions. The broken gate itself trembled under the assault. It seemed like it might crumble at any moment. But the humans and Virelians refused to back down. They fought as one, refusing to let the Shrask take their world. As the Shrask pushed closer, the humans launched a final, desperate maneuver. A group of elite soldiers, led by Captain Lawson herself, activated a series of explosive charges planted on the Shrask command ship. It was a calculated risk. If the charges didn't detonate in time, the entire planet would be doomed. The ground shook as the explosions went off, sending shockwaves through the Shrask fleet. The command ship, caught in the blast, exploded in a brilliant flare of light. The Shrask, momentarily disoriented, faltered in their attack. "Now!" Lawson shouted. "Push them back!" The Virelian and human forces surged forward, taking advantage of the chaos. The Shrask, stunned by the loss of their leader, began to retreat. The tide had turned. Victory and sacrifice. As dawn broke over Virel Prime, the battle finally began to wind down. The Shrask swarm, though not defeated entirely, had been pushed back. The broken gate still stood. The Virelian capital was safe for now. Liren stood amidst the wreckage, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt a strange mixture of relief and disbelief. They had done it. They had survived, but it wasn't without cost. Human and Virelian casualties were high. The dead and wounded were being counted, their names added to a growing list of those who had given everything to protect the planet. Among them were several human marines, their bodies scattered across the battlefield. Liren approached Captain Lawson, who stood near the wreckage of a destroyed Shrask ship. Her face was grim, but there was a flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. We did. The battle for Virel Prime was over. The Shrask swarm had been driven back, beaten, for now but not without significant cost. The broken gate stood, scarred but intact, a symbol of resilience and determination. Yet the victory felt hollow for many. The price had been high, the losses deep. In the aftermath of the battle, the survivors walked through the wreckage, feeling the weight of what had been saved and what had been lost. The night had passed in relative silence, save for the occasional hum of drones and the sounds of medics moving through the injured. In the quiet, the air was thick with both relief and grief. The Shrask had been repelled, but the task was far from over. The swarm had retreated, but it was not defeated. And the galaxy, despite all the assistance humanity had given, remained largely indifferent to Virel's survival. Ambassador Liren stood at the edge of the city, watching as the first light of day filtered through the remains of the city's outer walls. Her heart was heavy. The human forces had helped them win, but they had also shown just how much the Virelians still had to learn. There was a kind of quiet respect growing between the two species, but also a deep awareness. Humanity didn't fight like others. They fought to win, no matter the cost. Captain Ray Lawson approached, her face tired but still firm. As always. "Ambassador," she said, her voice a bit rough from the previous day's battles. "We need to talk about next steps." Liren turned, meeting Lawson's gaze. "Yes," she said softly. "We'll need to prepare for their return. The Shrask will come again. We've seen how relentless they are." "They will," Lawson agreed. "But we've shown them we can fight. We've shown the galaxy what humanity can do." She paused, eyes scanning the horizon as if searching for the answer in the sky. "And maybe now. We've earned our place here." The aftermath of war. The immediate aftermath of the battle was filled with both victory and loss. Human soldiers worked tirelessly to secure the area, patching up defensive positions and clearing the remnants of Shrask drones that littered the ground. Virelian engineers and medics, still shocked by the intensity of the battle, worked alongside their human counterparts, struggling to tend to the wounded and rebuild what had been broken. Liren moved through the streets of Virel Prime, her heart heavy as she passed by the makeshift memorials for the fallen. Many of the human soldiers who had fought so fiercely in the battle had given their lives. The Virelians were not accustomed to war, and the brutal reality of what had been done to protect their world struck them like a shockwave. The city had survived, but it would never be the same. In the command center, Captain Lawson stood by the holographic map of the galaxy, her fingers moving over the controls. She was focused, determined, even but the weariness was evident in her eyes. The battle had taken a toll on her, on all of them. Still, she held her ground. "We'll need to stay vigilant," Lawson said, her voice low. "This wasn't a victory. It was a temporary pause. The Shrask will return, and when they do, we'll be ready." Liren nodded, her mind racing. "And what about the rest of the galaxy? No one else came to our aid. They watched, but didn't help. Even after everything we've been through." Lawson's eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of something like frustration passing through them. "The galaxy will do what it always does," she said, her voice hardening. "Nothing." Liren turned, her gaze fixing on the distant sky. "And yet, we're still here. Thanks to you. Thanks to humans." Her voice cracked slightly. "Maybe we were wrong to think we could do this alone. Maybe we needed something more. Something like you." Lawson didn't respond immediately. She simply watched Liren, her expression unreadable. It was clear that the captain was not in this for praise, but there was something in her stance, in her quiet strength, that spoke volumes. "We're not done yet," Lawson said finally. "And neither are you." A new understanding. Over the next few weeks, the presence of the Earth Expeditionary Response Network continued to be a stabilizing force on Virel Prime. The Shrask swarm, while retreating, had left lasting damage. It wasn't just the physical destruction. It was the fear, the uncertainty. The Virelians, for all their beauty and peace, had seen what true destruction looked like. They were no longer the same species they had been before the invasion. They were scarred, but they had learned something critical about survival, about strength, and about themselves. Captain Lawson, despite her exhaustion, kept pushing forward. The human forces worked alongside the Varelian civilians, helping them rebuild and fortify their defenses. In the evenings, she would often walk the streets of the capital, her eyes scanning the horizon, as though the battle could still be waiting for them, just beyond the next hill. She had seen too many worlds fall to threats like the Shrask. She wouldn't let that happen here. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the horizon, Liren joined Lawson on the balcony of the command center. The city below was alive with activity. Virelian engineers working to repair buildings, humans and Virelians alike, training and preparing for what might come next. The city, once peaceful, was becoming a fortress. It's strange, isn't it? Liren said, her voice quiet. How quickly everything can change. A few weeks ago, we thought we were alone. We thought we were doomed. Lawson glanced at her, her expression thoughtful. You weren't alone, she said simply. Not then. Not now. Liren smiled faintly. I suppose that's true. I suppose we've learned a lot about ourselves in these past few days. We've learned a lot about each other, Lawson said, her voice softer now. But it's not just about learning, it's about surviving, and that's what you've done, what you'll continue to do. That's the key to making it through a war. Never stop fighting, even when you think you've lost. Never stop finding a way. Liren nodded slowly. And maybe, just maybe, we've learned that we can fight in a way that's our own. She paused, then added, You've taught us that. The two women stood in silence for a while, watching the sky darken, knowing the war was far from over. But there was a quiet hope in the air, a hope that hadn't been there before. The galaxy watches. Back in the corridors of galactic politics, a quiet tension had begun to grow. The Virelian people were recovering, but their true strength now lay in the alliance they had formed with humanity. The other powers of the galaxy, the Clari Ascendancy, the Kethan Union, the Syrinx Concord, had all watched from a distance as humans fought their own battle on Virel Prime. They had done nothing, and now they were paying attention. As the Virelians and humans continued to strengthen their position on Virel Prime, whispers began to spread throughout the galaxy. Some of the larger powers, like the Clari and Kethan, were uneasy. The humans had shown what they were capable of. Their rapid response, their unyielding determination, it was not something that could be ignored. The Syrinx Concord, ever secretive, began to reassess their own standing. The galaxy had seen humanity fight and win, not out of diplomatic maneuvering or political alliances, but because they had something deeper, something raw, something that might one day change the balance of power in the galaxy. But for now, the Virelian people had one simple truth in their hearts. They had survived because of the humans, and as long as Earth's Deathworlders were by their side, they would continue to fight.